The rain didn't fall so much as it congealed, a fine silver mist clinging to the air, blurring the edges of the world. Elias felt it bead on his worn leather jacket as he stepped off the bus. The engine coughed a cloud of blue-gray smoke and rumbled away, leaving him alone on the wet asphalt of Main Street, Havenwood. The silence that settled in the bus's wake was heavier than the humid air. It wasn't an absence of sound, a screen door creaked shut somewhere, a dog barked once, listlessly, but a presence, a weight that pressed on his eardrums. He checked his watch. 4:17 p.m., October 23, 1950 Fed. He had 7 hours and 43 minutes. The town was a watercolor painting left out in the drizzle. Muted greens of manicured lawns, the soft red of brick storefronts, the pale, questioning faces of the few people who glanced his way before looking down again. A strange lethargy hung over them all, a collective sigh made visible. Elias walked towards the diner, the only place buzzing with a semblance of life. The neon sign above it, the golden spoon, flickered with a tired, pinkish light, even in the afternoon gloom. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and frying onions. He took a seat at the counter, the cracked vinyl cool against his skin. A woman with weary but intelligent eyes and hair the color of autumn leaves wiped the counter in front of him. Her name tag read Eleanor. "Coffee?" she asked. Her voice was low, like the hum of a distant engine. "Please," Elias said. "Black." She poured, the dark liquid steaming in the cheap ceramic mug. "You're not from around here." It wasn't a question. "Is it that obvious?" He wrapped his hands around the mug, a small anchor of warmth.
"No what new has come to Havenwood in years,"
she said, her gaze drifting towards the window, towards the gray, unmoving sky.
"It's not the kind of place you arrive at. It's the kind of place you're from.
A sad smile touched her lips.
Or the kind of place you leave."
"I'm a historian," he offered, the familiar lie tasting like ash in his mouth, specializing in communities on the verge of change. Her eyes met his, and for a second, he saw a flicker of something sharp and knowing. Change? Nothing ever changes in Havenwood. The clock tower strikes the hour, the sun sets, the seasons turn. That's all. Sometimes change is quiet, Elias murmured, looking past her. You don't even hear it until it's already happened. He spent the next few hours walking. The town was a living photograph from his archives, perfect in every melancholy detail. The rusted swing set in the park moving slightly in a breeze that didn't exist. The headlines on the newspapers in the general store, proclaiming Sputnik's silent orbit. He felt like a ghost haunting his own memories. His steps led him, as they always did, to the clock tower in the town square. It was squat and made of dark, moss-licked stone. He ran his fingers over the base, feeling for the inconsistencies. There they were, faint, almost invisible symbols carved into the mortar. Not of this time, not of any time he'd catalogued. They pulsed with a faint energy that made the fillings in his teeth ache, the engine of the anomaly, the anchor of the loop. He saw Eleanor again near the library, a book clutched to her chest. She watched him staring at the tower. "My grandfather used to say that clock is the heart of the town," she said, coming to stand beside him. "As long as it keeps ticking, Havenwood is safe." "And is it ticking?" Elias asked, his gaze fixed on the motionless hands perpetually frozen at 11:59. "It hasn't worked in 20 years, but you can still feel it, can't you? A vibration." He could. It was the low hum that had been a constant companion since his arrival, a sound on the edge of hearing that was now growing infinitesimally louder. The frequency was shifting. The cycle was degrading. "Eleanor," he said, his voice softer than he intended, "if you could go anywhere, do anything, where would you go?" She looked startled by the question, as if the concept of elsewhere was a foreign language. "I don't know. I always wanted to see the ocean. To smell the salt and feel the sheer size of it, to stand at the edge of something so big it makes your own troubles feel small." She looked down at the book in her hands. "Silly, I guess." "It's not silly," he said. The ache in his chest was a familiar weight. He knew the title of the book she was holding without looking. He knew the passage she'd underlined on page 87. He knew that in 3 hours she would go home and listen to a Glenn Miller record while the world outside her window dissolved. They walked to the edge of town as the sky bled from gray to a bruised, unnatural purple. The mist had thickened, swallowing the horizon. The world seemed to be shrinking, drawing in on itself with Havenwood at its center. "There's a storm coming," she said, hugging her arms. "A bad one. I can feel it in my bones. It's not a storm." The words escaped before he could stop them. He was breaking protocol. He was always breaking protocol when it came to her. She looked at him, her face illuminated by the dying light. "Then what is it? Why are you really here, Elias?" He wanted to tell her. He wanted to scream it. To tell her that her world was a cage, a beautiful, tragic snow globe stuck on a single day. He wanted to grab her hand and pull her past the event horizon he was here to maintain. But he couldn't. The cost was too high. "I told you," he said, the lie heavier than ever. "I'm a historian. I'm here to watch." "To watch what?" she pressed, her voice trembling slightly. "The end?" He could only nod. A profound sadness passed over her face, but it was mixed with a strange resignation, as if she had known this all along, deep down. "Will it hurt?" "No," he promised. "It will be like falling asleep." He left her there at the precipice of her world and walked back to the clock tower. The hum was a roar now, vibrating through the soles of his shoes, shaking the very air. The mist swirled, a vortex of non-time, non-space, beginning to eat away at the edges of reality. The corner of the general store began to fray, dissolving into shimmering particles. The world was coming undone. He pulled a device from his jacket, a dull metal cylinder covered in the same arcane symbols as the tower. He placed it at the base, twisting the dial. The mechanism required a key, a final input to stabilize and reset the temporal loop for another cycle. His mission wasn't to investigate the Great Silence. It was to perform its monthly maintenance. He was no historian. He was a warden. He looked at his watch. 11:58. In 2 minutes. He had seen the projections. If the Havenwood anomaly collapsed, the temporal shockwave would erase the entire 20th century. All the art, the progress, the love, the loss gone. All to save one small town that didn't even know it was a prisoner. A necessary sacrifice, a perpetual lonely duty. But that wasn't the whole truth. It was never the whole truth. His hand trembled as he reached into an inner pocket and pulled out a small rectangular object. Note a tool, a photograph. Faded, creased, its corners soft from years of handling, it showed a man and a woman squinting in the sun on a beach, laughing. The waves crashed behind them. The man was him, younger, his face free of the lines of perpetual grief. The woman was Eleanor. This wasn't his first cycle, nor his 100th. He had lost count. In none of the early loops, centuries ago, he had broken, he had told her everything, and against all odds, he had pulled her out of the loop just as it collapsed behind them. They had a life, years. On that beach with the salt in the air, she had been happy. And the timeline had burned in their wake. His superiors had found them, of course. They had rebuilt the broken history, and they had fashioned for him the perfect.
His penance was to return, again and again, to the day before he destroyed the world for her. To watch her, to talk to her, to fall in love with the ghost of a memory, and then to personally ensure the cage was locked.
11:59. The world was white noise. The diner, the library, the houses, all dissolving into a static of light. He looked towards the edge of town where he'd left her, and for a moment, through the swirling chaos, he thought he saw her looking back, a flicker of recognition in her eyes, a shared memory across an impossible divide. The clock tower began to chime, a sound he hadn't heard in centuries, a single final bell. He twisted the cylinder. The device hummed, syncing with the tower. The storm of light recoiled, collapsing back into itself, the colors of the world bleeding back into place. The silver mist began to bead on his jacket again. He stood on the wet asphalt of Main Street. A bus coughed a cloud of blue-gray smoke and prepared to pull away from the curb. His watch read 4:17 p.m., October 23, 1950 fed. A fresh start. An eternal ending.